Good morning, one and all. We've made it to the weekend. Good morning. It is Garden America. I'm Brian Main. He's John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox. You'll see them very shortly on camera. Welcome to our viewers on Facebook Live, those on Biz Talk Radio. Welcome to the show. By the way, if you're on Biz Talk Radio, this is last week's show, pre-recorded, but still a lot of great information. So we are back in studio. Tiger, hello.
Yeah.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good to see you
Being
again.
so formal this morning. Introducing Tiger Palafox.
Yeah.
Who's that guy next to you on the left?
John Begnasco.
What a seamless opening of the show.
I had to make
compared
up for
to
last
week. Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Stumbling and stammering. But see, my
I
trick
couldn't
is...
even go back and watch the show. It was so embarrassing.
But see, the beauty is I can just toss it to you and bail out.
Yeah.
John, take over, will you, please?
Speaking of John...
hey, there he is on camera,
yeah,
speaking of John.
Well, our good buddy John Clements from the San
Hey.
Diego Botanic Garden joined us and gave me a happy anniversary. Congratulations.
Right,
So thank
50
you.
years of holy matrimony, Tiger,
Right?
for John and Shannon. 50 years.
I'm glad John remembered.
Well, you know,
Did you remember?
no.
You didn't.
Well, the reason I forgot was for some reason.
Oh, shoot. I thought you did
You opened
remember.
up a can of worms. You was kidding.
Ooh.
Well, we normally both of us forget.
Yeah.
And this year was 50. So you would think one of us would remember. And I did remember, except I was thinking June 30th, Friday. You know, I've got to make sure I get her a card, got to make sure. And then the 29th, I wake up in the morning, take a shower, come out. She goes, "Oh, happy anniversary."
On June 29th.
On the 29th, I go,
I
"You
love-
mean tomorrow?" She goes, "No, today." I go, "Oh, that's right."
I love how see, I don't remember the year at all. I'm terrible about that. I know the date, but I just don't know how many years. So that's funny. You forgot
But
the
you've
date.
got a lot before it's 50. So,
Yeah, exactly.
So you got time to learn.
I remember because I have somewhat of a photographic memory.
Oh.
I remember looking at our cake,
Oh.
and I can see the date on the cake in
That's
my mind.
great.
Wow.
September
See,
20th.
that's where I made a mistake. We didn't put any date on our cake.
Yeah.
See, you should
Yeah.
have done that.
Yeah, I
now,
never
what,
thought-
50
Anybody
years
listening?
is what, the golden anniversary?
Golden, yes.
That's golden.
yeah.
So what happens now? It's
Gold,
75
Brian.
years.
It's gold.
Did you get her some gold flakes?
Gold
What about
flakes.
75 years, John? What is that?
Is that diamond?
I don't know,
that's
but
not-
diamond-
I think
did-
it's is it
No,
diamond?
diamond is 60.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not a lot of people make it to 75.
In general.
In general, right?
And if they do, I don't think they're going to remember the date.
Or
I
they
me-
or they care enough.
I mentioned that I had posted, before the show started, I mentioned I had posted, we were having our 50th anniversary on Facebook. And I was telling you guys that you learn a lot of things about your spouse on Facebook. And one of the things I learned was that we were not Facebook friends.
Yeah, because what happened?
He posted a happy anniversary post, and
Shannon
he's
goes,
like,
"I
did you see it?
I didn't
No,
see it.
we're not friends.
we're not friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Hey, John Clements, by the way, has some exciting stuff happening at the San Diego Botanical Garden. They have another corpse flower blooming right now, or maybe it's just wrapping up.
Oh, is that the stinky one?
Yep. It smells like a.
It smells
corpse.
like yeah,
Exactly. I think that's so funny.
the
I
dead
mean,
body.
I mean,
flower.
The flower does look
Have you
really
ever
neat.
smelled a corpse?
Trying to think of like a person.
Yeah.
Now
No.
they say the police say that once you do, you'll never forget it. It's
I've
not,
smelled a dead animal before, but not a
Yeah,
person.
but the police say once you smell it, you know what it is, and you never forget.
No, I
it.
was just thinking. You said it smells like a corpse, and I was thinking, I've never had that opportunity.
Well, wait a minute. Maybe it smells like a decomposition, a corpse.
I've never smelled that either.
So, well, maybe one of our listeners or viewers have, and you can share that.
Can describe that
Yeah,
to us?
exactly. So again, that's at the San Diego Botanical Garden.
Yes. And it's kind of funny, right? Because, I mean, I feel this is maybe the third bloom they've had in 12 months.
That's very unusual, isn't it?
Well, I'm just wondering how they do it because, John, it's one plant, one flower, right?
Right. It's not the same plant.
Right, that's
They
what I'm
just
saying,
have
though.
multiple plants, right?
But once it flowers, does the plant die, or does it?
No.
it regrows,
Right.
and then a
Right.
new flower will come out.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, I mean,
And John says that that flower's gone.
oh, it is
It's
already
done with, but he said they're having a fantastic carnivorous plant show.
Ooh, that's fun. Because people, when they think of carnivorous plants, they only think of Venus flytraps.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of
John and I have a
variety.
story.
We
Years
do?
ago, you gave me a carnivorous tube. Was it a tube?
A tube.
Tuber, something. It wasn't the Venus flytrap. You gave me something else years ago.
Yeah, it's those ones that are like the tubes that they look like an octopus thing, and then
Yeah.
I can't remember what they're
Oh,
called.
you mean a pitcher plant?
Pitcher plant.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I was all excited. This is great, And so I gave it, I don't know, some big old huge bug or something.
like
And
a cockroach?
And
Oh,
it died. And I told John, he goes, well, that's like you eating a whole turkey in one sitting. You killed it. I thought, you know what, here, if this is a little bit's good, then a lot's going to be good.
I
pitcher
fed it.
plant.
I fed it a rodent.
Yeah, it was probably a big cockroach or something that died. John goes, no, you can't do
You'd
Well,
that.
probably-
don't some of those pitcher plants eat mice and things?
They get really large,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, they do. They get massively large. There's
Pitcher
different
plant.
varieties and things like that,
Yeah.
and then
That's a while back.
things fall into them and then decompose, and that's how they get
They
their
smell like a
nutrients.
corpse flower.
Yeah, we're back
Exactly.
to that. Now, that's different from the century plant?
Century plant's agave,
Okay.
and that is called the century plant because they were supposed to bloom
Once every 100 years.
but
Right.
that's not true.
Right.
It's
And they big, huge,
spike
yeah.
off the top, and then when that flower's done, that plant does die.
Does die. I had one in when I lived in Pacific Beach
Yeah.
back in the 90s.
Yeah, that's people get so discouraged when they hear that. I go to their yard for a consultation, and they go, "Oh, what can we do with this?" And I'm like, "Cut it away, cut it off, start a new one." And they're like,
Yeah.
"Wait a minute." I'm like, "Yeah, it's dead. It's done. Nothing."
I can't remember the species now. Maybe John Clements does, but I have an agave that doesn't die after it blooms. And I think that almost every agave does die after it blooms, right?
Yeah, very few.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, don't. There are some new hybrids though that I don't know if it's that they don't die or if they just don't bloom, because there's some really cool, like the most common. I'm thinking the most common agave is agave attenuata. Very, very common agave, smooth skin out there. You see them all over the place. But the problem with that is that they're very rapid growth. They bloom frequently, very hard to control. So they've come out with some hybrids of them, like Blue Nova, the variegated one, and different things like that. And they don't bloom as often, and they stay nice and compact and clean, where I think the attenuata gets very messy and big and overwhelming.
Well, they have those. Are they mangaves now?
Oh, that's the hot new plant.
Oh, really?
That
This is the thing, huh?
that took over the houseplant craze.
Really?
Yes.
And so
Mangave.
it's a cross between a manfreda and an agave, right?
Yes. Really cool looking, purplish speckled, almost octopus looking like plants. Really good contrast with foliage in the garden.
Wow.
Mangaves are the new it plant for sure.
I wrote a book on houseplants, and I'm
Volume 1.
and I'm so out of the houseplants now because that's why I moved to California, so I could grow stuff outdoors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wandering
the
Jews
house
and
plants.
spider plants. That was our big house plant.
So per our listeners' requests, I'm booking a guest for bonsais.
Oh,
And so I was talking with him, about the show we're going to do and topics and stuff.
Right.
And, one of the big things is the difference between an indoor bonsai and outdoor bonsai. So,
What was that?
yeah,
John looked at me.
I just got to look too.
I
What's
gotta
going
look, what
on?
happened?
I
Something-
don't know.
Really?
It's just when you're old, just go with it. I have no idea.
You like every now and then there'll be like lapses of time.
Well, it's like you come to the realization, hey, I'm in studio.
Hey, look where I am. Hey, speaking of that, I think we have time before the first break for you to recite the quote of the week. John, please.
And who's it by, Brian? Monty Don.
I was going to say Dewey Weber, but
European
that would have been
gardener.
wrong.
Yeah, British gardener,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And
Pip and all
I
that
thought
rubbish.
this was an interesting quote because I've mentioned this with roses before and their names. But he said, "I'm always more interested in people than plants. Nature doesn't make gardens, people make gardens. And the story of a garden is always the story of a person."
It's very true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Very true.
And I was thinking, that about, I learned a lot of history just from researching the name of a rose, for instance. Or Tiger told me, what was the one you told me about, the Australian plant? Was it a grevillea? Maybe it was a
yeah.
grevillea that was named after some outlaw.
Ned.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am
Hey,
I
we're
gonna-
going to take a break.
All right.
We can think about that. So those on Facebook Live, I guess we have a question already. So from Linda, so we'll get back and address that. And any other questions or comments here on Facebook Live, thank you to those on Biz Talk Radio. It is break time. Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox here on Garden America. Thank you for joining us. Garden America has returned. We are back from that break. Those on Biz Talk Radio, thank you for supporting our sponsors, Root Warrior, Fertilome, and, of course, Mosquito Dunks, our big three here on Garden America. We do appreciate that support. We appreciate you on Facebook, those on Biz Talk Radio. John, are you back with us?
I'll answer it. First
Okay.
off, Ned Kelly.
Ned
was
Kelly,
the
thank you, yes.
Australian outlaw that John learned
Kind of a
about.
Billy the Kid kind of a guy.
Yeah. And, John, here's a question for you from Linda. I have had roses for years, mostly miniatures, but they do not bloom. Lots of leaves, but no flowers. Am I supposed to fertilize?
Well, I think, yes, you are supposed to fertilize.
I
but
can't
what-
believe that you could have a rose for years and not have it bloom unless you've got it indoors.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think it's the fertilizing. I think it's
It's
the
something
location.
else. Yeah,
Yeah.
location.
They
It's
need
like
to
real
be in
estate.
full sun.
Yeah,
Or they won't
it's-
bloom unless they're in full sun.
I was gonna say it's either a sun situation or like what you said. Is it indoors?
Right.
Because even if it's full sun indoors, that will sometimes not allow the flower to actually bloom as well because temperature changes and also it actually is darker indoors. Even though it could be in like a full light window, it's darker than if it was outside in your garden.
Right. Well, just recently, I told you about the bloom within one day, like in the morning.
Oh,
it was
your
just
roses
starting
in your patio.
and it was so hot that day when I got home from work, it was in full bloom.
Yeah.
So just the heat and the sun in what 8-9 hours made a
Yeah.
huge difference.
I
And
give up.
and if, and if you have
You're not giving
good-
up on the question. We're giving
No,
up.
I give up on trying to find.
Yeah.
I'm
Getting
handed
John,
my phone to Tiger. He's going to get me back.
getting the show back on John's iPhone.
Yeah.
And if you have foliage and good foliage, there's nutrients. So it's not really always like a lack of nutrient thing,
Right.
right?
But
Right,
you should be
if they-
feeding it.
You should be feeding them at least once a year. And,
Right.
And if they're in pots, just use Osmocote.
And you encourage soil in your
Yeah, you
garden
do
or,
need
or
soil.
your potted plants.
Right. For those who don't listen to the show all the time, that refers back to when I went over to your house one day
Right.
and looked at your rose in the pot, and there was probably a 12-inch deep pot and maybe 3 inches of soil
Well,
in
no,
it.
that's it. I love it when you exaggerate stories. It was about halfway up, but still not enough soil.
Yeah.
Because I had run out, and I was trying to fill as many pots as I could. A little bit here, a little bit there, and of course he comes in between before I was able to buy new potting soil. And the running joke is, these look okay, but they might do better if you added soil to
Yep.
the pot.
Yeah.
I like that you appreciate when I exaggerate.
I do. I love it. It's fun. It's like the one that got away. How big was it?
Oh.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. As big as my arm.
Talking about heat and weather,
Yeah.
and we're going into some really weird weather again. Now, next week's supposed to be hot, and it's really bad for plants to go from
Hot and cold,
Right.
hot and
so how
cold.
do you prepare for this? I mean, what kinds of things can you do?
So you're talking about that after next week it's going to get
Right.
pretty cold, right?
If you have enough money, you can move towards the coast like Tiger does,
Right.
and then it's not so
I
bad.
just don't even care. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're inland, it's terrible. And it might come to the point where you have to even put some shade cloth over things for a little while. If it goes from, well, we're in the 70s today, right?
Yeah.
But next week, if it's in the 90s inland.
But you said after that it's going to get cold again? It's going to go from hot?
we keep going up and down,
Right.
and that's the big problem, right? If we were just going up and then it stayed,
Right, sure.
that would be fine. The plants become hardened off; they can tolerate it.
They get used to-
They get
yeah.
used to it. But when you go cool and then hot and then back to cool, we were talking. Somebody had some roses that had burned. And it wasn't because the roses can't tolerate the heat or the sun.
No, because they take full sun, right?
It was because it just happened so quickly. And that's what John's saying. How do you protect your yard? Because it's not just roses; it's all your shrubs and trees and plants that can ultimately have this. And I mean, general fertilization is good because that helps, right? The health of a plant.
Well, yeah, except you don't want to fertilize.
You don't want to fertilize now, but I mean, keeping your plants healthy,
Right.
is
Mainly
important.
through organic
Yeah.
fertilizer, so you're not going to end up burning with a chemical.
Trying to keep them strong enough to hopefully
Yeah.
get through the up and down of the heat.
Yeah.
And then
But if they don't build up a thick enough cuticle, they're just going to sunburn.
yeah.
And
It's
that
always
can-
about the cuticle with you, isn't it?
Yes. The cuticle is the waxy covering that covers the leaf of a plant.
Right.
And the thicker the cuticle, the more it's able to tolerate sun. And we've talked in the past many times about Ficus benjamina indoors and why they say if you move it, it's going to lose its leaves. Well, it's not really true, but what does happen is that ficus in full sun develops a thick, waxy layer so that the leaves don't get sunburned. If you move that plant in the house, it's now not letting in enough light to keep the leaves on the plant. So it'll drop all those leaves and it'll put out new leaves, and the new leaves will have a thinner cuticle to allow more light in so the plant can survive under lower light conditions.
Interesting. So back and forth. And then you put it back outside again, the same thing happens?
Well, you put it back outside, then it's going to burn.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Well, what's your analogy about, a person being inside all year long?
yeah, and then going to the beach.
You go to the beach the
and
first
lay
hot
out
day?
there all day. Yeah.
You're going to burn too.
Yeah, and then the other thing is watering, because the one thing that we notice when it does get heat is that little bit of watering that you were doing that was good for your plants maybe isn't sufficient enough. So making sure you're watering more deeply. So that means maybe
Right.
a little bit longer run times, because the roots down below, the soil's damp. It should be nice. I mean, but what happens is over time of the heat, it begins to dry out. And if you keep the watering the same through the spring all the way through the summer, eventually that soil does dry out, and then a month into the summer months, now the soil's dry, and you haven't done your job, to make sure that ground is wet. And like I said, it's more deep watering, because people will be, I'll just throw another day on, and that's good enough to water shallow rooted plants. Like another day is great for the first 6 inches of soil, but it still evaporates and then it still dries out. So that foot down of soil begins to dry out over time. And then, you need to deep water to make sure that those deeper roots for your shrubs and trees have water down below.
And containers are going to dry out a lot quicker.
Yeah.
If you've
Oh,
been
yeah.
watering every other day on a container, you may need to water every day if it's a small
That's
container.
what I said when I came in this morning. I said, back to watering all the time in this heat. So spoiled over the winter.
Yeah.
And now it's like,
and then forget about hanging baskets, because you could stick a hose on it all day long and it'll still dry out.
I know, and I come
somehow.
home and I see my little indicator plants going, help, we need water.
Yeah.
Carol mentions that she had to use shade cloth on her roses yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
So it depends where you are. Was it last week that people in Reading were saying
Right.
it was going up to 106 or something like that?
Yeah,
Gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's just
crazy.
terrible.
I had some friends that went out to Palm Springs for the 4th of July weekend, and they said it got to 114.
114.
That's normal. I mean, this isn't anything
No,
new,
in
but
Palm
it's still,
Springs, right.
It still is just
And you know
so
what? This is
hot.
the time of year to go because it's off season,
Oh,
meaning
gosh.
hotel rates are cheaper.
Super cheap.
Everything's cheap
Yeah.
right now.
But you just have to wake up at 5 a.m. to get a day's worth of anything in.
But who's going to go outside and just stay outside?
That's right. You
You're
just go
going
to a pool.
Indoor, outdoor pool, store, air
Right.
conditioning. It is break time, John. One of your favorite parts of the show. So we're going to take this break for Biz Talk Radio. Shorter break on Facebook Live. Carol says 108 in Tucson. We'll get back with more of your questions, comments on Facebook. I'm Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox here on Garden America. Back from that break here on Garden America. Happy weekend. We are heading into almost the middle of July, summertime. Things are hot. Been talking about the weather, up and down, what it does to your plants, so on and so forth. And keep an eye on things, John.
Yeah,
my advice.
Our friends Kim and Carol in Tucson are probably thinking you guys are lightweights out there.
Yeah, really,
Can't-
right?
Jeez.
Well, they've had record temperatures in Phoenix. My old supervisor here moved to Phoenix 2 weeks ago. And I said,
wow.
just in time, huh? How do you like the heat, buddy?
Really?
Uh-huh.
It's been record hot there?
Record hot in Phoenix. You're talking
man.
115.
I was going to say, that must be hot then,
That's
if you're
very
talking
hot.
record hot in Phoenix.
Yeah. Really.
Because
From what I understand, now
it
maybe
gets
Carol,
warm.
somebody in Arizona can correct me, but it's supposed to be like one of the hottest summers so far.
Yeah. Well, 108 is cool for them, right?
I think that would be normal.
That's midnight. That's midnight temperatures. Nice, cool.
When you
off.
go outside at 10 at night and it's 85 degrees,
Yeah.
that kind of weather.
Hey, Rick has a question. Rick in Idaho says, speaking of house plants, why do fertilizers that are supposed to be for a certain plant, for example, orchids, all have different NPKs? How important are the NPK ratios?
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Is orchids. If you go to a garden center, you see 8 fertilizers for different orchids. So, what do you think, John?
I think that I would ignore NPK. And as far as being for a specific
Is
plant,
it just to get you to buy more different products?
well, yeah, I think so, because we've mentioned before, plants can't read.
You can't read.
So they don't know that you're giving citrus food to a rose.
Yeah.
So you're saying that different orchids, according to their marketing scheme, require different fertilizers.
Well, you know,
That's
who is
silly.
well, especially with some of the chemical ones, they have a bloom fertilizer like a 01010,
Yeah.
and then they've got a high nitrogen fertilizer for other times of the year. And who was it? My friend Hans Gubler, back in the it was the late 70s, or no, actually it was maybe the early 80s. But anyway, he said that he was the one who introduced Phalaenopsis orchids into the United States. And he went through and he tested the nutrient content of orchids for a whole year to find out if it ever changed during the year.
Oh.
He said it never changed. It was always the same, whether the orchid was getting ready to bloom, not bloom. And so the fertilizer that they put out was the exact composition of the nutrient levels in the leaves, and that's all that he felt was necessary. But I think as long as you're keeping the plants in a healthy soil, I don't think you've got to worry about nutrient contents. In most parts of the United States, I would never add phosphorus to the soil.
And
Yeah.
don't most good
not to the ground soil.
Right.
most good soils, potting soils, anyway that you buy, if you buy a good one, has a lot of those nutrients already in the bag, right? For the most part. I'm not talking about fertilizer. I'm talking about what you need to sustain a healthy
Premium
plant.
potting soils do.
Right.
If you look on them, there'll be things like bag guano, cottonseed meal, earthworm castings mixed into their soil
Right.
blends. But basic potting soils, no, they do not. They just have fir bark, some sand, some perlite.
And why do, and lack of a better term, why do cheaper potting soils, when you're using pots, have a tendency to
Shrink.
Shrinkage.
Shrinkage,
Yeah,
right? And it
yeah.
starts to separate from the pot itself.
It's because they fluff up the soil with peat, which
Mm-hmm.
what's the most common, the least expensive thing. And that way it looks like you're getting a nice big bag of soil.
Yeah, and then it
but when you
shrinks.
actually compress it down,
Right.
it's a lot less.
And it
Well,
seems
also,
to dry
as
out.
peat loses water, it compresses.
Right. So
And then it's difficult to, if it gets
Re-wet.
too dry, it's difficult to re-wet.
Yeah, definitely.
but I will say too, this Rick's question, when it comes to houseplants and potted plants, it is important to keep introducing fertilizers because unlike the ground, which has all these natural vitamins, minerals, phosphorus, nitrogen in it, and they're almost never depleted. I mean, it would take so much growth in nature to deplete the soil of that volume of nutrients. Potted plants, houseplants, orchids like we're talking about, and specifically orchids that are epiphytes that aren't in soil.
Right. They don't require. They just require a host.
Right. You need to kind of give them some nutrients, and whether it's a water soluble fertilizer or like the Osmocote, John mentioned for potted plants, you do need to replenish it because they can use that up.
They can use it
over
up,
time.
Right. Did you saw Kim's? I'm sorry, Todd. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think that was it. I think I answered that part.
You see Kim's comment, John?
The Tucson Rose Society advises zero fertilizer now, just water on the roses, but she's still fertilizing her cannas. What do we think? They're under a severe heat warning.
Well, I think we mentioned this before. I can't remember if it was on the last show about you fertilize her in the heat and you run the risk of burning your plants.
Right. But wouldn't
So you
that
gotta
be
be careful.
with chemical fertilizers as
Yeah,
opposed
a lot
to
of
organic
times.
fertilizers?
Yeah, exactly. With any kind of chemical fertilizer,
Right.
you risk burning plants with heat.
But the organic is feeding the soil.
Well, the other thing you have to think about is what do most fertilizers do? And most of them encourage plant growth, right? And if you're encouraging new growth during hot weather,
You're
like
taxing
in
the
Tucson,
plant?
well, no, but the
tender
new
new
growth
growth.
is going to be tender and it's going to burn.
Yeah, right.
Once it's hardened off, again, Brian, with that thick cuticle, it'll survive the heat. But during the summer in areas like Phoenix, Tucson, Palm Springs in California, it's just like winter. You
Yeah.
treat it like winter.
Yeah, right.
It's the
dormant.
plants go dormant. Of course, the temperature is different, but they're going dormant for a
opposite.
different reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, the plants just need a rest period.
And even that could even go, especially with Tucson and some of these areas that are heavy succulent. People think, oh, I'm going to start watering. And then they kill their plants watering through the summer because, again, that plant's dormant. And now you're rotting it out. You're trying to get it to grow with water. It's not normal for that plant. So, even cut back a little bit on the watering for those plants that are summer dormant plants, which are a lot of succulents that are native to deserts because they don't get water in the summer and they live just fine where they're at.
Well, they hold water. They have enough water, I would imagine,
Yeah.
to get them through.
Yeah, exactly. So don't overwater it and definitely don't allow it to rot out by keeping the water around the base of the plant.
Root rot.
I found something interesting at my house yesterday. Polyantha Hill,
Yeah.
where I've got a lot of Polyantha roses planted. A lot of those are really huge right now, and some so big you can't see underneath. And I was going around starting to pull out weeds because there were weeds in different areas. And as I got near this one plant, this one rose bush, a quail flew out.
Oh, a bird.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought that was interesting that it waited till I was almost there before it flew out.
Little nest.
So I lifted up the plant and I saw about 8 or 10 quail eggs in this little nest.
Really?
Yeah.
8 or 10 eggs? They lay that many eggs?
Yeah, I was
Wow.
surprised. There were a lot. They're little.
I guess.
Yeah.
No, but I guess you do when you see a quail family.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a little like a duck
Right.
family.
right.
I
Like
guess,
now we
yeah,
have
yeah.
doves again, and doves always lay 2 eggs.
Okay.
It's always 2 eggs.
Yeah.
So they're back. They got the fountain right there to drink. I mean, and we're out there. In fact, it's in one of the hanging baskets that I got years ago, John. It's like the 3rd or 4th year in a row. And I keep forgetting she's up there. And I bang my head, right?
Oh, no.
And the basket starts going back and forth. I look up. I go, sorry. But she just
She says,
looks
pay
at me.
attention.
She's used to it.
She's used
Just
to us.
Brian.
Yeah, that's exactly. Oh, you again, huh? But yeah, so what, about 5 or 6 quail eggs?
No, there was closer to 8 to 10.
Okay.
Wow.
Whenever I see quails, they remind me of that sign you see on the freeway
Yes.
sometimes.
Yeah.
With racing across the freeway with kids in tow.
The kids in tow.
Watch out, you don't
Right.
run over these people.
So you just let it be then?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No, John made an omelet.
I was going to say, yeah, with the quail and the eggs, right?
Now that we're talking about eggs, I have a problem, and I'm wondering if it's a squirrel. I'm going to have to get my squirrel trap out again. But the eggs in my chicken coop, every morning I go out there and they're gone. And I see
Really?
them broken outside the coop.
How about foxes or coyotes?
Well, coyote couldn't get in there, and
can't
the
get in there.
coyote would not just eat the eggs; it would eat
get
the
everything.
chickens.
Squirrel,
Eat everything.
I feel like squirrels go after the feed, but I don't know if they go after an
Eggs? And it's
Well, what else would go after?
well. Let me
the
ask you:
raccoon?
did you check to see where they could possibly have gotten in?
Yeah, I can't see anywhere unless it's squeezing through the door.
But then it has to get the egg back out the door.
And do you have the cage,
Right.
the mesh going in the ground and,
Yeah.
and around
Yeah.
to keep them from digging, something digging in?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to contemplate that during the break. Anybody have any suggestions or ideas? Those on Facebook Live. Those on Biz Talk Radio want to take part in the show. You can go to our Facebook page, Garden America Radio Show, every Saturday morning, 8 o'clock on the West Coast, 11 o'clock Eastern Time Zone. Take part, be with us here on Garden America. So for you on Biz Talk Radio, back after these messages. Back on Garden America, this is our final segment for hour number one. If you are tuned in on Biz Talk Radio, news coming up top of the hour, back at 6 after. We do 2 hours. Hopefully your market carries both hours or at least one each and every Saturday. Those on Facebook Live, thank you for your questions, your comments. Could be weasels, could be a bird, could be snakes.
I don't think it's
weasel?
weasels because
Do we have weasels? Do we?
Yeah, they're there.
Weasels?
Weasels?
Really?
Weasels, yeah.
Yeah.
ferrets. I had a ferret in my yard one time.
Really?
Yeah.
They're illegal to have in California as a pet,
Well, I didn't have it as a pet.
which is interesting because they're
It
in
could
the
have
wild.
been someone's pet that
I guess-
got loose.
I guess I just live in the city, so those creatures are probably more rural.
Yeah, but you've got a canyon behind you.
I do, but I've never had a weasel.
When I lived in Alpine years ago, I mean,
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
rural. Like you got coyotes,
I
you got
saw
foxes, you got
everything.
mountain
there.
lions, bobcats,
Right.
all that stuff out there.
Yeah, everything out there. Yeah, bobcats. We could hear the coyotes at night during
yeah.
a kill
Yep.
where they're yelling and screaming and whining.
Yeah.
Carol thinks it's snakes.
See, and that does make sense. But then,
But
doesn't a
don't
snake?
snakes eat the whole egg?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Don't they eat the whole egg? Right.
Yeah, they just swallow it whole.
right.
Yeah, but
and
these
then
are
it takes
broken.
them, and it takes them a while to digest it.
Yeah, and this is
Exactly.
every
That's
day.
a slow process.
It's a slow, like it takes like a full day.
Sure.
Right? So I'm imagining they wouldn't just like go out of the coop.
I'm going to make a
sit
suggestion
around.
to John.
Yeah.
And you know,
Get one of those critter cams.
I was going to say, get a critter cam out there. Get a camera out there.
Those are always so fun.
And then when the light goes, any
I think there
movement,
is a camera out there.
the light goes
I don't
on.
know how to work it, though. I'll have to ask Jesse.
You know what? That's what I would do, John.
No, but
that.
those critter cams are night vision, so the light doesn't go on, so you can see.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, if the light goes on, it's going to scare away the
now
creature.
that motion activated.
Yes,
Right, just like the trail cams in the forest.
yes, exactly. Get one of those for the coop because that way you would be able to see what's happening. And hey, it might be Jesse.
Yeah.
Well, no, Jesse's been gone for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
He's been in Texas.
I think that would be interesting. I would do that, John.
Yeah.
See what's happening.
Lila says she has a 500-gallon spa that they turned into a water garden,
Oh, cool.
into a pond.
Uh-huh.
And her husband just bought a pink lotus.
Ooh.
And does the lotus need a large pot, or can they put it right into the spa?
So, from my understanding, is that you want to keep it in a pot because they live in Blossom Valley, right? Oh no, they live in Poway.
Poway, right.
Okay, so it gets hot.
Well, no, but my understanding is that they need to be protected in the wintertime, though, because they go dormant. And we had a nursery out in Alpine, and we used to sell water plants, and people had to be real careful in the wintertime with their water plants because it gets so cold.
Right, sure.
And so,
But they just go dormant, don't
well, I know, but they go dormant. But you want to keep it in a pot so that way, in case you had to move it.
Yeah, I think
You
she
know what I
just
mean?
wonders, though, if it should be a large pot. Like, can it be in the pot that it came in?
Yeah, I don't think they.
You don't.
I feel like the water plant soil medium is not super important aside from there having just some kind of medium. Like
Right.
sometimes it's just like sand or like that, not pumice because it floats, but like a rock like material that just is holding the roots in place.
I always thought that of all the water plants that lotus needed the biggest pots.
Okay.
I mean, you could Google that, Lila, and take a look. But I think because of the size of the plant itself, it does need a larger pot. And then you do need some type of fertilizer in the pot. They make those special
Yeah.
time release
Fertilizers for the water plants.
for water plants that
Tabs.
that you put right in the pots. So if you're asking if you can just put it in without a pot, then as Tiger says, no, you do need to have a pot. But if it's in a small pot, and it was me, I would probably put it into a larger pot just so you don't have to do it down the road. If it's a 1 gallon, maybe move it to a 2 gallon.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've seen a lot of them in the squatty kind
Yeah.
of
Some of
bowls,
them have-
color bowls.
And some of them are in those baskets. Do
Yeah.
they still use those?
I'm not super savvy in the water plant world anymore, but yeah, they just wanted something that would stay grounded, in the fountain as well, because it's kind of hard sometimes when you're working with a water garden, and then you want to move it around sometimes in the water garden, so you want that ability to kind of move it around. So like a squatty color bowl or squatty 2 gallon, like John said, I think would be a good size. But I know there's a specific medium because, number one, if you use regular soil, it'll cloudy up the water real bad. Number two, you need it to sink. So you can't have perlite or pumice in it at all because that'll all just float out.
Yeah. John says to use those fertilizer tablets to feed them.
Yeah.
Bury them halfway into the soil
Perfect.
so that they're not going to come out.
Do you remember at Kew Gardens, in their water plant section, do you remember that giant water lily? Do you remember?
The Amazon one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, it was like as big as his studio.
Yeah, I
and it
think
was just
that's Victoria Amazonica, if I've got that right.
With
But
the
they're
water lily?
the ones that
It's-
they usually show kids sitting on them.
on top of,
Yeah.
just in this big fountain or big pond.
And
in
it has a
Kew.
rim around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does Balboa Park have smaller version of that?
No, maybe they have a lot of lotuses in their
Right,
reflecting pool right there out in front of the atrium.
You know who else has the Amazon water lily you're talking about was the conservatory in San Francisco in
Oh, yeah?
Golden Gate Park.
They do.
Yeah, they had them up there too.
Have you
So
seen
cool.
raccoons on your property?
No, never seen a raccoon.
Because they're supposed to be
I think
everywhere, even though you don't see them sometimes.
Yeah, I was like, they even close the door and lock it behind them.
They're
Yeah.
too chubby though. I
Yeah.
don't think they'd get through.
You know, I told you years ago when we moved to Alpine, it was the night we moved in. So it's 10, 11 o'clock at night. You're bringing stuff in. And there's a sliding glass door. And I look, and there's like a raccoon family. And they're right up at the sliding glass door. And they've got their paws out. They're like what? We find out
Some
that
pawage.
the lady who moved
Lived there
out
before.
was feeding them all the time. So we said, nah, you know what? Wait till we get settled. I don't even know what you want. There's a plum tree out in the back. So I hear this rustling. So they're in the tree grabbing plums.
Yeah, they're like, hey, if you're not going to feed us, we're going to take
Exactly.
food from you.
So we figured out, okay, I guess we'll have a little routine here. We'll give you, whatever. But it was so funny with their arms stretched out. Like, okay, come on, feed us. It is break time.
I was
almost.
just going to mention quickly that John says that he plants them in pea gravel.
Oh, pea gravel. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, pea gravel, and then if you stick the plant tabs halfway down, you should
Perfect.
be okay.
All right, it is break time news coming up on Biz Talk Radio, back at 6 minutes after. For the rest of us on Facebook Live, it'll be a quick break. We'll just keep on cruising along. Your questions, your comments, trying to figure out who's stealing John's eggs, chicken eggs, in Fallbrook, California. This is Garden America, back after these messages and news on Biz Talk Radio. We are back from the break, welcoming those that are just tuning in on Biz Talk Radio. The rest of you on Facebook Live, those that come and go on Facebook Live, thank you for tuning in each and every week. Continue with your questions, your comments as we roll along here. No guest this weekend, just us, just your garden buddies, the boys here in studio. John, 10 minutes ago, realized he is back in studio, and that was a great realization. And whatever you missed, John, you can go back and watch it.
Oh, yeah.
Go to our YouTube channel.
And it won't be uncomfortable since the opening was seamless.
It's seamless.
Yeah.
We have 205 subscribers on our YouTube channel.
Wow.
We started at 20, 50, 150. So, yeah, you know what? We encourage you to go to our website, gardenamerica.com, of course. That helps to support the program. If you do want to watch our shows pre-recorded, go to our YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show. You can watch all the shows, this one to be uploaded sometime this afternoon.
The magic's gone out of my garden.
Uh-oh.
Great setup, isn't it?
Yeah.
The magic dogwood.
Magic dogwood's
It didn't make
Officially
it.
dead.
officially dead. You know, and this year it was in...
It was so good.
Yeah, you saw it as it was fading.
Yeah,
But if there were tons of blooms on it, right?
Yeah.
And-
Now, refresh my memory. Why did it die? You moved it to the sun?
It was the sun. First, you planted it someplace and then moved it and then back again?
No, it was stuck out in the sun because of Tiger's crew having to go through and put in irrigation and stuff. So I had to move all the plants that were up near the house away. And I think I don't know if we had some hot temperatures or what it was.
Yeah.
Or if it didn't get watered out there. I don't know, but it went from being
Very happy.
from truly magical to just a completely dead. And I mean, not
bummer.
even a hint of life in it.
That's a bummer.
So my daughter for Father's Day gave me a little obelisk, and I stuck that where that was.
I wasn't thinking obelisk was going to follow that statement,
That's so
but okay.
And I put a climbing rose in it.
Ah, okay.
So that's sitting there now. Which brings up another question. Do you know, we had originally, along the side of my drive, talked about planting birch clumps.
Mm-hmm.
And then we switched to crepe myrtle.
Yeah.
But I know that birch like more water, and at the bottom of the driveway where the water settles, I was wondering if a purple birch would grow here. Have you seen those? Have you sold them?
I've seen those. I have not sold them. We haven't sold birch in a while, though, because the European birch has been having a lot of problems here.
Right.
And I know that the purple birch is different, but I don't know. I don't know if it would do well there. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna
try it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna order one from Forest Farms in Oregon.
Do they have a magic dogwood also?
I think that maybe, I don't know if that's where mine originally came from. There was only one place online you were able to get magic dogwoods, and maybe now you can still find them.
Yeah.
But in Southern California, people in other parts of the country are thinking, well, what's the trouble with growing a dogwood?
Yeah,
well,
no, they don't.
Southern California, they don't usually do well. But this particular dogwood is native to Mexico, even though it's up in the mountain area.
Yeah, just like California, there's a lot of varieties or a lot of regions in Mexico. Yeah.
Right. So, but anyway, this one did grow for years, and I kept it in a container, got to be a nice size, and was in a 15-gallon can, and just ended up dying. Yeah. But anyway, I'm done with that. I
moved on. You
I've
grew it.
on.
Now you don't need another one.
You're going to replace it with something else?
Yeah.
Purple birch.
Sure, though? I mean, purple birch?
I mean, often with plants, my attitude is I really don't want one. I just want to hold it for a little while. kind of like puppies.
Yeah. You're like, oh, this is cute.
Yeah.
Now it's growing. All right, let's get a new puppy.
Right.
Wow.
So anyway, Forest Farms has got a lot of interesting things. I'm saying I killed, not that it died, because I'm sure it was because of me, but I had a bunya. And I know Brian's thinking you had one removed.
Yeah, it was on my, which toe? Which foot? I forget which foot, but you're right, yes.
But I had one of those that I started in a little 4-inch pot, but I see that they have 1-gallon plants available, so maybe it'll survive a little better. They like cold weather,
Yeah.
which surprises me because as we were walking along the river in Idaho, when we went to visit Gino, walked by somebody's backyard and they had one in their backyard.
Now, are those native to Australia?
Yes,
Right,
the
so-
Oricaria bidwillii.
So are you going to plant that on your Australian slope?
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like it'll get too big for that slope, right?
See, I'm not worried about things getting too big anymore.
Because by the time it gets too big, you won't be there.
It'll be somebody else's problem. You know, the kauri tree that I planted at my old house, is now probably 70 feet tall.
Yeah.
But so I moved. But that was like
30 years ago.
over 30 years, yeah.
Oh, man.
And 30 years from now, I'll be 104, so I'm not concerned.
You should get Shannon a whole bunch of plants for the anniversary present.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
Here you go. Bunch of trees and things.
Well, that's funny because she bought me a bunch of plants for Father's Day.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, all
Yeah?
stuff she wanted.
Yeah, I was going to say, was it stuff you
course.
wanted?
It's like, what am I going to do with 4 or 5 gallon dahlias? First of all, I would never plant or never buy a 5 gallon dahlia because you just buy the
buy the
bulbs in the
bulbs and-
spring.
yeah.
Yeah.
Has she
Exactly.
ever gone outside and actually planted herself various?
Pots.
Yeah.
She's into planting pots right now. So we've got pots everywhere. Not so much into watering the pots.
Yeah. Once they're
planting?
planted,
Yeah,
they're
that's John's
John's job.
responsibility.
Yeah.
But they're there.
She'll water them if the hose is handy.
and on.
So, like in the back of the house, I've got to set up something where she can grab a hose.
What about the
real easy.
new watering system? How's that working out?
Are you still using that at all to kind of help you out or no?
Oh, yeah. But I have a major problem with my watering system is that I don't know how to adjust it. I don't know how to change the days or the times or there's a booklet, but
You know what's
Isn't
actually
there an
easier?
app? Just get an app, right?
Well, you know what's actually easier is the YouTube videos or videos.
that's
watch a
where
video on it.
That's where every
is there a
instruction
video
is.
on that one?
Yeah,
Oh,
there
for
is for sure. And
All right.
I can show you and I can walk you through it. Too.
But the good thing about the YouTube for anything, whether it's learning whatever about, because a lot of things don't come with instruction manuals anymore.
Yeah.
It's go to YouTube and you can stop and pause and rewind like we talk about our show. And that's the best way to do it. If you can get through the first 6 minutes of somebody trying to be a star, it's like, just get to the point, will you? If the 20-minute video, on how to load whatever, and it takes 2 minutes, but that's the best way.
I'll have to do that.
Are you watering not enough now, or
I
you
think
want
it's-
to cut back?
No, I think it's not enough.
So you need to increase.
Right.
Yes, the
But
weather's
even like the slope, the up the driveway and stuff like that.
that gets plenty of water.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
going to say that probably can start being cut back.
Is
Yeah,
there an app for his
probably.
system?
No, because I was worried because we put multiple clocks. I was kind of worried about him being able to switch
Right.
from
one
to
area
the next,
to the other.
kind of thing. So we just kind of have it where he does it manually.
Otherwise, you could just increase the flow in the studio. Go to your app and
No,
know?
they're Bluetooth. They're not Wi-Fi. Oh. Yeah. So you'd still have to be by
you got to
the
be
clock.
there.
Yeah.
Unlike my heater at home, I can turn it on right now from here.
Yeah.
Well, I can put in the drip now, but
Yeah.
I don't know how to change the
The-
time. And it was getting a little bit because the weather was cooler.
Yeah.
And the last time your guys were out, they cut it back because they said it was staying too
Too wet.
But now I think it's too dry.
Yeah.
So
And then it's tough because you're on that slope. So you're right. It all kind of like goes down. So
Right.
probably the stuff at the bottom is looking a little too wet, and then the stuff
Yeah.
at the top is not.
nothing's too wet, but the stuff at the top is too dry. I
Now
think.
I'm wondering what the area by the chicken coop, because we put this. He had some roses down by his chicken coop, and we just put that temporary watering system to water that. But this area, if you didn't walk through weeds that were 5 feet tall,
They're all
you would
cut
never,
back.
You
Come
would
on.
never know these roses were there. So I'm wondering what that watering system did to all the surrounding weed growth.
No, all the weeds have been cut back.
Oh, are they?
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mainly because I couldn't find the chicken coop anymore.
See,
No, it really was. Tiger's not exaggerating. They were like 6 to 8 foot tall weeds.
yeah, it was the funniest thing. Like it's almost like you walked into the secret garden. You know?
Who cut him down, John?
Joaquin.
Okay. I like his valley.
Yeah,
I've always liked that.
Joaquin.
Valley,
wor-
the
always
San
liked-
Joaquin
I've always
Valley.
liked the valley, yes.
Yeah.
Carla says it's going to be difficult to remove a tree when I'm 104.
And we have to take
so
a break.
she needs me to think about that.
I'm 30 seconds over here for Biz Talk Radio. So going to jump out back after these messages for Biz Talk Radio. Garden America is back. Thank you for tuning in this morning, along with Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox, here to answer your questions, share some funny stories, so on and so forth, as we battle the heat, the summer of 2023.
So I was perusing the news feed this morning, and I think because of my interest in gardening, this thing popped up. And it was a World Series game. It was back in the 50s. I can't remember all the details of it, but it was somewhere back east, and they had just had a lot of rain. So they were trying to dry out the field to get ready for the World Series baseball game. So they
And this is summertime, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
World Series, it had to be.
Well, no, World Series would be in the fall,
So it was in the fall.
October.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they put like straw or something out there in the infield where the dirt is.
To soak it up?
Well, and then they lit it on fire.
What?
And that was supposed to dry out the field. And I'm just like, it's so funny things that I mean, if you think about it, you're like, oh, a fire, it will dry up this water. Like, yeah,
and it'll burn the straw.
yeah, that'll make sense, right?
Yeah.
But it's
It's
just
away
funny,
from,
like,
it's away from buildings.
yeah, yeah. And it just shows this stadium and all these people. The stadium is full of people.
Oh,
And then the infield is just billowing black smoke on fire.
so this is before they had tarps. I'm imagining, right?
Yeah.
To cover
Or-
baseball stadiums
Or OSHA or
anything. Yeah,
or
exactly.
or a fire like marshal.
There's a picture on my. Have you been to my Facebook page?
Yeah.
There's a picture of Crystal Pier.
Mm-hmm.
It's Garnett Avenue looking west and Mission Boulevard. Right to the left is Oscar's Drive-In. It's one of those old drive-ins with the car hops and stuff and roller skates. But on that property, there's a huge light pole, and there's a guy on a ladder.
Oh.
One guy, probably up 20 feet.
Changing the light bulb
Yes.
kind of a thing.
Speaking of OSHA, speaking of all those
Yeah.
things, it's like, oh my gosh, no way could you do that right now. But take a look at it next time.
I
He's up
will.
on the left-hand side.
That's
and here's
funny.
this one guy changing a light bulb. The picture was taken probably, I'm guessing, because there's a Bronco at the stoplight on the corner. It's a 61 Bronco, I think.
Okay.
So it's probably around there. John was riveted.
Yeah,
John was like
he
holding
is.
on to every
Well, I
word.
was looking. Carla had a question.
Yeah,
she
go ahead.
said
Back to the
she's
show.
yeah, she's intrigued with the idea of drip irrigation, but they have a strip of grass between the hose bib and the vegetable patch, and she's not sure how to bridge the gap. You can just go right underground, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Or yeah, dig. You know what the nice thing about grass is too is you can
Goes
actually
right over it.
cut out the grass,
Right.
put it right underneath, and you put the grass back as
Right.
if nothing even
Right,
happened.
right.
And I'm thinking her more concern is she doesn't. So they sell drip without the holes in it too. So maybe she doesn't know that like, you don't put all of the drip line through the grass. There's a section of tubing that you just put in that doesn't have the holes too. Or maybe she just didn't know how to go through the grass. But I would just cut open a trench in the grass, and you cut out the pieces so you can just put them right back after you're all done.
Yeah. Just like laying sod.
Yep.
Relaying sod.
Exactly. So done. And drip is really nice for small areas. We had to do that near the front of your house where we couldn't do the sprinklers because, it's too small of a bed or something. So it just depends on, location too, that you can use the best product to make it
I don't
work.
think I have any drip in the front of the house.
I thought there was some. Oh no, there are the sprinklers right there in the
Yeah.
front. Okay, yeah. But But yeah, it does work in specific situations. It's nice, easy to work with, and if John can do it, anybody can do it.
Well, that's true. I don't know how to do it from beginning, but I can add on easily.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm trying to figure the hill behind the house, how I can go from the main line to drip.
Mm. The hill behind the house?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like the downward hill?
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and there I've
West.
got irrigation all along that hill.
That's a bunch of sprayers.
Right.
That are just spraying the
Right.
hill. And you want to convert that to drip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I tie into that?
Yeah, easy.
All
It's
right.
actually really easy. Yeah, I can show you how.
See, look at that. Look at that smile. He loves that.
I
Yeah.
like things being easy.
Yeah.
When is the party at your house? Later on this summer when Tiger gets back?
Which party?
I think John's best time of year. I mean, aside from the
Well, it's hot
spring,
now.
aside from the spring when probably the roses are looking just absolutely great and it's not too hot out there. But I would say probably November. Is it October? Because October still can
No,
be kinda
October's hot.
Still
Yeah.
hot.
September and October are usually two of the hottest
Right.
months of the year.
But like November, it's sunny. It's not too cold yet.
You'll have the
Are-
chicken
are-
coop thing figured out by then.
And then I mean for you, I mean, don't you get like another little bit of like a fall growth bloom during
Right.
that time of year too?
Right.
So things are looking good. They're not so stressed and scorched. Not a lot of tumbleweeds.
So what has it been out there lately, temperature-wise for you? 90s, 95?
No, not at all. It's
Really?
still been cool. It's
Really?
been in the 70s and
Oh, my
a
gosh.
couple days in the low 80s. But
That
now
may-
next week it's supposed to go
Yeah.
into the 90s. But we'll see. So far it's been cool. And they're talking about another El Nino year coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we should have another wet winter
Correct.
following up on the one we had.
Yeah.
So
You can always use it.
I heard today that the Great Salt Lake had boats on it again because the water level had gone up 6 feet.
Really? That place has been a ghost town for years.
Yeah.
Well, it's just so
It
amazing.
was a tourist mecca years ago.
you know, talking about these reservoirs because
Lake
I know
Mead's coming back up again,
Yeah,
too.
I know all they're we haven't solved our problem,
Right.
when it comes to drought. But it's amazing to think about how much water does come down through some of these channels and these lakes that were at 50%, 40% are now, and it's in I was up in Temecula last week and there's still snow on the San Bernardino Mountain.
Yeah, somebody said there's still snow in places.
And then forget about Mammoth, who still has lots of snow. All that water still has to come down, and these reservoirs are already at capacity now. And it's amazing how much water.
Predicting a flood?
I mean, I think they're doing a pretty good job of controlling it.
Right.
But it also makes me think, right? Because if these reservoirs hadn't been so low, where
What
would that
have
water
happened?
have
Where,
gone?
where would
So
the water
it's-
have gone?
there's
Well, it also makes you wonder, why don't we just build more reservoirs?
yeah.
I mean,
Right.
who cares if a reservoir goes down 70, 80%? If you've got a bunch of them,
Mm-hmm.
you can use them.
We were
Or
just talking about the Michigan area, Great Lakes. They got plenty of them.
that's right. Or who is it? Carlsbad with their desalinization plant.
Yeah.
I mean, we have plenty of water if we want it.
Yep. Yeah. No, but so it's going to be a interesting year, and then like you're saying, I think we are going to get some more rain next year, and it's funny for gardeners and
We
what
got a
this
break coming up here.
what this does though is that it switches the way we garden too, and more people are going to buy flowers and things like that in the upcoming years because they're not so worried about drought.
Right.
And I feel like we've gone through this lull of lack of new flower introductions lately.
Okay, back after these messages. 2 more segments to go on your weekend here with Garden America. Stay with us. We are back on the air, Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. It is Garden America each and every weekend. Been a good show so far, talking about a lot of things. A lot of people tuned in on Facebook. We do appreciate that. And those that are also tuned in on Biz Talk Radio. John, give a shout out to those people.
You know, we've been talking about how plants are affected by the heat and how too much heat can hurt the plants. I have plants in my house that aren't getting enough heat. The plumeria.
Yeah.
And my plumeria still have not leafed out.
So far behind.
Yeah. What about yours?
So far behind.
Really?
Yes.
I'm getting little ones just now peeking up.
Yeah.
It's been delayed about a month or so, right?
So, it's funny that you say that because
Well, I think the plumeria show's coming up here pretty quick, isn't it?
I'm trying to think of when it was. I don't know. But it's funny that you say that because I had to drive out to Santee yesterday.
Oh,
And I drove, and I'm looking. I'm like, wait a minute, that plumeria is in full bloom, and I'm like,
hot.
I'm like,
Santee
because
hot.
It's hot, and like mine are not even. Some of them haven't even leafed out yet.
I think
Yeah.
I'm a little hotter than you, maybe where I am. Not much.
But you're in the shade. I don't think you're. I mean, you are hotter than your
But, I
area
mean, I'm
is
seeing-
hotter than me.
I'm seeing growth. on
Take
the
a survey and see who's hotter, Brian or Tiger.
So I'm getting some leafing out of the plumerias right now, but
Yeah.
not as much as should be there.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, no, you're right. And it's funny because I was going to mention that when you were talking about plants earlier in the show in the summer heat, because this is the time of year, and somebody had mentioned cannas, tropicals. This is the time of year when you see tropicals.
Oh, yeah.
Hibiscus, plumeria,
Right.
palms, cannas, all that stuff come out. And I'm not seeing it yet. I'm not. I don't know if the growers are behind too, but it just seems like we're all a little bit behind on that trend of tropical plants. And then do you have any tomatoes? I know you do,
Yeah.
Brian, but do you have any tomatoes, John?
No.
You haven't been around, so I didn't
No.
if you didn't plant any.
No.
The tomato fruit is behind too. Like it's just sitting there waiting to turn colors. It's not.
Love the sugary though. Man, are they good.
You like that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
I wish they were a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
They're not as big as a cherry tomato.
Right.
But they're very sweet.
Yeah.
Very sweet. Yeah.
That's fun.
pure sugar.
I
It
have
is
this-
fun. Yeah.
I'm growing this group of tomatoes for the nursery, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's this yellowish Roma tomato. Not super happy with it. I mean, it looks cool, fun to grow, but
Doesn't taste good?
no,
Are they ripe?
yeah, just very I don't know, just kind of bland. I don't know, not a lot of flavor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I also feel, we talk about Danny was in here last week. Last week, yeah,
Danny Romero. Right.
yeah, and how part of your eating is with your eyes. And to me, I just sometimes like that. It's a bright yellow tomato. Like this isn't gold. This is yellow.
But it's all show, not the
And,
taste is
and I
kinda-
just feel like it makes me not think it's also going to taste very good. I think I need to see that.
Oh, that
red.
could be.
I think I
Yeah.
need to see that red. I think I need to see that in order to really taste it. I feel like I'm eating something lemony when I bite into it.
Yeah, because of the
Because it's yellow.
Your eyes are deceiving you.
Yeah.
There's a tomato called Lemon Boy.
There's a tomato called lemony too.
Really?
Limmony.
Lemony,
Yeah.
like sugary.
Yeah.
Sugary and lemony?
Lemony.
It sounds like something on Pee Wee's Playhouse. Hey, Carla says, Brian, that you had a nice picture of the hibiscus in the newsletter.
Yeah, that was a huge.
Yeah, that was a
bloom.
massive bloom.
Yeah.
Did it just have one?
No, I got another one now coming
No,
too.
but it just has one bloom
Two.
on the plant.
Well, this one died, and now I got another one coming up. So it seems to be one or the other.
That's a varietal thing, right, John? Where you have these big blooms on the hibiscus plants, but it only has a couple.
Right, instead of
then-
a bunch of them, which we
But
have
then,
on the property.
Hula Girl, you'll have a ton of blooms on it, right?
Well, it depends whether they're in pots or in the ground,
Oh,
too.
okay.
In the ground, the plants get bigger and you'll
Right.
have more,
In the
more
pot, yeah.
blooms. Right.
Um,
That company's out of business, not out of business, but they've closed down.
Really?
They've retired. You can't buy from Hidden Valley hibiscus anymore.
Oh,
wow.
good for that.
Yeah, it's. I come around the corner and it's just like it hits you. You ever go outside and you're not expecting something to bloom, and you look and there it is, and you're like, "How long have you been here?" That's kind of the way I felt. Like, wow.
And if I'm not mistaken, that lasts more than one day too, right? Because usually hibiscus lasts one day and that's it.
I had this 3 or 4 days,
Yeah. Well, that's a long time for a hibiscus.
Mm-hmm. and then the other one I saw yesterday is starting to bloom. So yeah, those are they're like dinner plates.
Yeah.
Huge. Very,
They have a dahlia they call dinner plate dahlias
really.
that are big dahlia heads too.
You know, they say the giant squid, the eyes of a giant squid are the size of dinner plates.
Really? Yeah. There's a lot of dinner
See how I
plates.
segued into there?
Yeah.
Dinner
Good one.
plates, squids, names of plants,
Dahlias,
dahlias.
hibiscus, all of it.
So what's
Veronica
going on?
says that Orioles love orange and yellow tomatoes.
Oh, yeah, right.
So
Orioles love oranges, right? Isn't that what you always
citrus.
see?
Yeah.
Citrus, right?
You always
Yeah.
see Oriole feeders have citrus, oranges.
right, fruit
Yeah.
in general.
I guess that's it.
Yeah.
We got a ways to go. We got this and another segment.
Oh my gosh,
You're gonna make it, John.
We got to think of
Here we go.
stuff to
Rick's got a
talk about.
question.
All right.
Should we add more compost now to the vegetable garden as we get halfway through the growing season?
Oh, I wanted to mention that because we were talking earlier about fertilizing and burning. And Brian, you had mentioned, that's why we use organics because
Right.
it doesn't burn. Now, that is it is true, but you do have to be careful because organics can still burn. And because they still do carry heat with them. And one of the biggest things people do is they use manures, steer, horse, in their gardens. And they can burn their garden if that manure has not
Been
composted
yeah.
down. Putting hot manure on your garden, hot compost on your garden is super harmful, especially like he's saying in a vegetable garden situation. So you need to make sure whatever you're putting down has been completely composted if you're going to add manure or add compost to your ground, because you could burn your plants. You could, really do harm. And even, I have bagged compost that we buy from E.B. Stone, and when we put it down, it's still warm to some degree inside. So you got to be real careful. You want to do a light dressing of it. Don't put too much because you don't want to burn your garden. Yeah. And then, definitely this is not the time of year to go to your local, horse ranch or cow farm and say, oh yeah, because, they always give away manure there. And even like byproduct, like a mushroom compost is usually horse manure that's gone through the process of growing mushrooms. Even that is not always composted fully down, and you got to be careful using that too. Yeah.
Rick's up there in Idaho, though, and it's going to be really hot during the summer, so it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to add a little bit of compost, right? Mm-hmm. Just to help, as long as it's totally composted, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Veronica wants to know how to take cuttings from a fig tree and propagate.
Wow. Just take a branch and drop it off. They're like a geranium.
Right?
Yeah. There's some specific things, right, John? As far as like where to cut it, what to put it in.
I think the best thing to do would be to just go to YouTube and put fig tree cuttings, because
There you
it'll
go. Again, back to YouTube.
Well, it'll show you
It's
exactly
true.
how to do it. But there's a couple times a year to do it, but I think you'll probably have more success if you do it about now.
Yeah.
And the main thing that you have to be careful of is that it doesn't stay too wet. You don't want it to rot. So putting it in a loose medium, I think
pumice.
Yeah, I think you'll be really successful. But go to YouTube and just watch somebody do it. Mm-hmm. And
where to cut it at, what nodes to put under the ground, what nodes to keep above the soil.
It's all about the nodes, isn't it?
It is.
By the way, I think I've mentioned before, I've been trying to get this Marechal Niel rose. Mm-hmm. It's a rose that was mentioned in Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book and the Rikki Tikki Tavi story. So I've been wanting to get one for a long time, and it's not a vigorous grower, but I did find somebody who had a plant that was vigorous, and they sent me budwood. And I gave it to a friend in San Diego and asked him if he would bud it onto a Fortuniana rootstock, which is extra vigorous. So I thought, this is just going to be a spectacular plant. So yesterday he sent me a picture of it, and he had budded and it was growing, and he said, I hope this will be okay. I put the bud in upside down. I'm thinking, all this All this effort that I've gone through, and then he butted it upside down.
Oh, that's so funny.
But it should grow. I mean, they just turn around and come
Yeah.
back up.
Yeah. That's funny.
Great. Okay, break time here on Garden America with one more segment coming up. Still time for a few questions, few comments here. As we continue on your weekend, Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. Garden America, it is. Welcome back to the show. This is it, final segment for this Saturday, your weekend. Of course, many ways to hear the show, be it on our YouTube channel. We've got Spotify, we've got Google, we've got Alexa, we've got, of course, back on our Facebook page. So many ways to watch and listen to Garden America as we increase our subscription on our YouTube channel. And, of course, please do visit our website, gardenamerica.com.
Veronica wants to know if cactus mix would be okay for her fig tree cuttings. I think it'd probably be perfect.
Yeah. Yep.
It's going to drain.
Drainage.
Yeah.
It's all about drainage.
Yeah.
That would be good. Another question?
Rick was wondering if the manure you were talking about burns because of the high urea content.
I don't think so. I think it's just because it's actively composting, and that creates heat.
Yeah.
So,
But it's composting partially because of the urea. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Lisa's question, John.
She wants to know what to put in the ground to control Japanese beetles. Well, we don't have Japanese beetles in California.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what they use back east. Is that the
It's
is
a
that
grub.
the milky spore disease that they put down?
Put down?
Milky spore? I don't know. Maybe Tiger
It's-
can Google that for you, because if I do it, I'll lose lose my place.
I want to make mention here. This is the second or third comment about people asking about the trip we're planning.
You know,
we're gonna get to it. We're still looking at things, right, John?
Yeah,
We
but
don't
I'll
wanna
tell
spill
you,
the beans yet.
can't we tell people where we're thinking? We're
Yeah.
90% sure.
Okay.
We just don't have the details. But because Tiger's been there before, and we're trying to put together a trip that anyone could go on.
Yeah, it's
Because-
more inexpensive than other trips,
Right, because some trips I really get up there. So
in terms of pricing.
in terms of pricing, right? Anyway, we're thinking of doing Costa Rica.
Costa Rica,
Yeah.
monkeys,
So, and what was
beach,
it? 9 days, Tiger?
parrots,
9
birds,
days,
volcanoes.
Costa Rica,
Right.
volcano, gardens, coffee plantation,
Right.
Hummingbirds,
hummingbirds.
Hummingbirds.
Yeah.
Did we talk about orchids?
orchids,
Orchids.
orchid farms. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get together the details, but it does look like that is where we're going to
And
go.
Tiger, you'll have to rent a surfboard. You're not going to bring one on the trip.
No, I won't bring
You'll-
them.
you'll
I'll
rent
them
it.
there. They have plenty of them there.
Plenty of at the beach there. So
Yeah.
so we're talking about Costa Rica next year
Yes.
In the spring.
in the spring,
Yeah.
and it's affordable, more
Yeah.
affordable than a lot of trips.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Plant and animal lovers delight Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Right. And in our trips in the past, they've all been great, but I know that a lot of people, the problem that they have is finding transportation. And the nice thing about doing this trip with Colette is that if you want them to book transportation for you, they will.
They'll do it.
Yeah. So usually you get the land price of a tour and you book your own flights. So with Colette, they'll either book it, or if you want to use frequent flyer miles and do your own, you can go ahead and
have
do that
choice.
too. Yeah.
So we'll have more details as the months progress.
Yeah.
yeah.
You are correct. Milky spore disease does help control Japanese beetle grubs, and it's a grub. So,
Right.
I mean, the way to control Japanese beetle, once they're actually a beetle, there's not a lot you can do. But what you can do is control them when they are in the grub form, when they're in the ground. So milky spore disease or other grub killers. So if you're seeing them, Japanese beetle or beetles now, it's too late. but it's something that you need to do in the future is prevent the grubs from growing in your garden or area.
I think we had talked about this on air before, but there was a woman back east who trained the wild birds to eat the beetles.
Oh, the beetles themselves.
Right, and because birds don't naturally do that, at least North American birds, because it's not native to North America, right?
Yeah.
So what she would do is she would catch some of the beetles and she would smash them and then put them on a little bird feeder, and the birds would come down and eat
Got
them.
them acclimated to the taste.
And once they got used to eating them, then they would go after the live ones.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah. But I don't know if that gets passed on from generation to generation.
I don't know.
It could be.
You have to keep just teaching it.
I mean, birds migrate, and
Yeah.
how did they learn how to do that?
The North Star, right?
I don't know.
It all has to do with the moon and the gravitational pull.
Exactly. You're talking about the tides now? Yes.
Do you know that we see the tides go in and out, but that's not what's actually happening?
Right. It's
the Earth is oval, and we're turning with it, but the tides are always there.
always the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in Europe, they go away from the shore, right?
What? It's
Well,
the
they're
opposite.
all, yeah,
It's
because they're all
opposite.
coming to our
Are
coast.
we going to now start talking about south of the equator where the drains go the other way?
Where the drains.
That doesn't. I heard that's not always true. That they don't always go the other way. But when I was in New Zealand, one of the first things I did was flush the toilet to see which way. And I actually got in. I didn't get in trouble, but I was admonished for flushing the toilet
Without having anything in it?
right.
Well, who caught you doing
Yeah, I
that?
was
Who's
gonna
watching
say,
you flush the toilet?
What happened there?
Well, because the people we were visiting, they were having a drought, and they had the,
Okay.
if it's yellow, let it mellow, and if it's brown, flush it down. So they were trying to conserve water.
John's
Okay.
favorite place, New Zealand.
It is, and we're
getting good feedback on the Costa Rica.
oh yeah,
Fabulous.
that would be a fun
It'll be
trip
fun.
for anybody.
Plants and animals, you hit it on the head, Tiger. That's
Yeah.
paradise.
Yeah.
How many times have you been there?
2.
2, and you enjoyed both times.
He wants,
I'd go back
he wants to go back
all
again.
the time
Right.
if I can.
So with that in mind, we're going to say goodbye for this week. We are back in 2 weeks, taking some time off. Tiger's on vacation, so we are definitely back week after next. Thank you for joining us, those on Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. More about the trip coming up and more show coming up in 2 weeks. Do stay
Dana's
with us.
in.
What's that?
Dana's in.
Dana's in. See, she
Costa
loves
Rica.
it. Lots of
Yeah.
hearts. Take care. Be safe. And we'll see you again, as I mentioned, in 2 weeks right here on Garden America. Take care.